Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we are back again with another alliance war. So this is NY718 against X7V, and to start off I'm taking the second fight on path 6 in section 1, and it's Tareq. It's also with fisticuffs and all or nothing. However, for Quake this is like extremely simple and easy matchup, because obviously I don't have to worry about Flow filling his power bar. I don't need to get him stunned, and he lost power quite quickly at the beginning of the fight, so I don't really take any damage from his rock shield or anything like that. I have been facing quite a few Tareqs lately, but yeah, I don't really think he is all that tricky on Alliance War defense, because yeah, Quake and Magic both absolutely destroy him. Use either one based on what nodes he's on, and yeah, I guess that's about it. But hey, I mean, he certainly isn't like the worst defender. It's just he's definitely not the one I'm worried about when I start my path. And here we can see that minute in the fight he's at like 28% health. Another set of aftershock and concussion kicks in, and he's at like 12%, so only one more set basically remains. Basically just over a minute, and Quake has taken care of this guy extremely easily. And flow was never an issue in this fight in particular, and that was the only fight I had to do in section 1. I will have quite a few more fights later on though, so this is quite busy war. So here I'm going to be up against this Havoc, and he's on the toggle unblockable node with a special one bias, but I do have Warlock with me, and Warlock is pretty much a perfect counter for any Havoc pretty much everywhere, because you can power drain him, you have an armor buff, you do not need to worry about his plasma detonating, and yeah, obviously you also have class advantage, and Warlock just absolutely shreds. Now, the only thing that I obviously do have to kind of like keep in mind is awaiting his level 1s, because he's going to be extremely happy to throw those level 1s, and also the fact that he goes unblockable is another thing that I kind of just need to pay attention to. But so long as I don't accidentally go for a parry when he is unblockable, I should be pretty much fine here. A couple of bleeds in the corner, his health is ticking away, and yeah, that's about all she wrote. 30 hits, absolutely no problem here for Warlock. And we can move on to the next fight. Next fight is going to be Medusa, and this one is going to be another Quake fight. Now, I could have used Magic probably extremely easily as well in this fight, but I just figured I'll bring in Quake because I feel comfortable with Quake, and that's pretty much like the safest option, in a sense that I personally think I have less chance of making an error with Quake rather than with pretty much any other champion in a fight such as this. And here we can see that first set of aftershocks, she's at 85%, so it's not going to be the quickest fight, plus I'm not like running Suicide Masteries or the big boy boosts. I still boosted a little bit in this fight, but I think at this point it was already pretty evident that we have this war under control, and we were clearing it also kind of like extremely early in the day, when there's plenty of time left on a timer, and this was a relatively comfortable war. It wasn't overly stressful. We had the lead from the very beginning, and it just kind of like grew later on, and yeah, it wasn't one of those extremely nail-biting close wars. And overall our alliance actually did really well in this war in general as well. I think our battle group only had 1 death, so we have been picking up the slack here. But yeah, so Medusa goes down, nothing too special in that fight. Quake just took an well, Quake did what Quake does, and that's about it. Now I need to deal with this Symbiote Supreme, and he's actually quite tricky on that node, because he goes on blockable, and obviously he has a control tag next to him, so he benefits from having flow. But for this fight specifically, my strategy always has been with Magic, just to hit on Symbiote Supreme's block and kind of like maintain my positioning on the screen up until such point where a couple of buffs expire, where the limited immunity wears off, and I can actually power lock the guy. So that is pretty much still the same game plan here. You could be a bit more risky. Now here it was cheeky. It was kind of like he somewhat sidestepped me, but hey, luckily I'm playing magic and it didn't deal too much damage, but it was quite worrisome for a moment. And right here, once limited immunity has worn off, I have gotten to my level 2. The fight's pretty much kind of like under control. Now I probably, if I remember, I'll make some slip-ups, but at this point I'm feeling like quite comfortable in this fight. Again, just need to be careful when he does go unblockable, not to get caught by that. So you need to check when you can parry, when you cannot parry, when you need to dash back or just kind of like run away for a bit. But so far so good, and everything's kind of like fairly simple and easy here. Not much to worry about. Another level 2 and the fight is over. So the kind of like the biggest help in this fight is, yes, just not to attack him directly while he has that limited immunity active, because that makes the fight a lot more difficult. And as soon as it wears off, just go ham at him, more or less. Now we're gonna have Emma Frost. Once again, I'm gonna use Warlock for this fight. Now she does have Safeguard on, which is quite annoying, but all in all, Warlock is quite a good opponent here, especially because his level 1 is so many different hits that it still manages to sneak in a decent amount of damage. You obviously have class advantage and all that other stuff going on for you. You cannot obviously parry stun Emma when she's in diamond form, so that is something to keep in mind. But level 2 does place armor break on her, so that also makes the fight kind of like easier, quicker, and more simple. Right here I have an infection on her that I just refreshed. Now I have a couple of infections. She has a debuff, so she's losing power fairly rapidly as well. I'm using that to drop a heavy attack, inflict some bleed, and yeah, we can see that she's going down relatively quickly. Not the quickest fight, obviously, due to safeguard, but at the same time, a minute in the fight, she's at 57% here, and we will definitely have more than enough time to finish out the fight if I do not mess up too badly. So once again, another level 2. She has the armor break, so she cannot enter the diamond form. I think I will make a mistake where I'm gonna try and heavy too slow, because she quite clearly has like maxed out limber. But all in all, it's quite a simple fight for most part with Warlock here. Don't think it's like the best placement, but hey, it's also not that easy. I guess you do need to be able to evade her special attacks and so forth. So that was the mistake. She did land a hit on me, but I was like at full health. I wasn't too worried. And now I see that the boss is nearly open, and I was basically directed to go and take down that boss. But before I can get to the boss, I need to deal with this rogue. And obviously Rogue is a control champion as well, so she does benefit from flow, and this node has like Plague Mind and Limber, and I still decided to bring in Quake. And for most part, it's not too bad of a fight, but whenever I'm up against matchup like this where my stuns will last extremely short amount of time, because obviously Rogue shrugs off debuffs quickly, and then Limber on top of it all, it's very easy to make a slip up. And the time when you stun the opponent is also the time that's the most risky in this fight, because that stun duration expires so quickly, you get thrown off your rhythm, and I personally at least tend to mess up exactly at the point, like not when she's attacking me. Like if she was stun immune, this fight would be so much easier, because these moments where the stun still lasts for a considerable amount of time are fine, because then you are able to kind of like check the stun, see how much time you have, and you know what you have to do. But now at this point, when the stun gets extremely short, then it's getting trickier and trickier. That's why I also am not a fan of like quaking on rapid metabolism and nodes like that, because if the stun duration is kind of like absolutely tiny, it just makes it quite difficult to kind of like focus yourself, because you pretty much don't get any break at all, but you're used to kind of like sticking on that heavy when the stun kicks in order to get your aftershock charges. So yeah, at this point the last 20% was quite dicey. Now I do have enough time, I don't have much to worry about. Only thing that I was concerned at this point was that if I accidentally push her past the bar of power, that could potentially kind of like complicate things. If I like drop my heavy on her, or she catches me and she gets a full special attack. But here we can see that that stun was basically non-existent, so it's a bit kind of like a dodgy Quake fight, but at the same time the fight's nearly over. Don't have much to worry about. Next set of aftershocks and we are done. So far so good, and no deaths and a couple of interesting fights. And obviously then there is the Mojo boss, and I didn't like fully boost for this boss. I think I had like a 30% champion boost active and 10% attack boost, and obviously the mystic boost and special 1-star boost, because without that the fight becomes exponentially harder. But I do remember this fight being quite sloppy. I will make multiple mistakes in this fight, and actually one of the kind of like critical points in this fight is going to be when simply my power lock will fail to trigger on my special attack. Now, I started the fight by eating a heavy attack and again getting hit, and it was definitely a very poor start of the boss fight. But now that I have gotten to my first kind of like level 2, I can try and work on getting the fight under control. Now, another thing that is extremely tricky with Mojo is the fact that his heavy recovery time is extremely short, and especially where parry mastery is involved, like Alliance War, it's quite risky. I have gotten parry stunned multiple times fighting Mojos when I'm trying to punish Mojo's heavy attack, because the recovery time is just incredibly tight. I actually prefer just trying to land an intercept over baiting a heavy attack for most part against Mojo, because yeah, it has gone and does go very wrong very quickly if you get parry stunned against the final boss in AQ. But so far so good. Minute in the fight, he's at 33%. Here you see that that was the point where power lock failed to apply, but luckily I was able to kind of like drop another level 2 in time. Now here I eat a heavy attack, but I do manage an intercept, and the end of this fight is going to be extremely dodgy, but I will still manage to one-shot this guy, luckily, and it definitely could have gone a lot smoother, but all is well that ends well. And yeah, another Mojo solo, not the cleanest one, but still got the job done. All that being said, we won this war, as I mentioned before. It was quite like relatively relaxed and not too close. Now here I made the final mistake. I'm at 6%. I'm waiting for Limber to expire. Drop a level 2. He's still alive. I think that if I drop my level 1, the fight should be over. I drop my level 1. He's at 1%. I'm like, come on, give me a break. But yeah, I will land that final hit, and yeah, the fight's over. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I will catch you guys soon. Yeah, see ya.